Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak about the matter of public importance submitted by the member for Essendon, which he drafted in these terms, that this House notes the public reports in The Age on Tuesday, 2nd of August 2022 regarding secret arrangements between the member for Bulleen, his former Chief of Staff Mitch Catlin, and a Liberal Party donor, and that the member for Bulleen continues to refuse to answer the most basic questions regarding this scandal. Without going into too much detail on that necessarily, I just want to talk generally. To me, at its core, the question that the member for Essendon has written is about integrity and it's about trust. So, again, based on what I've read in the media, it's not entirely clear, I believe, what motivated the behaviour that's referenced in this matter of public importance, whether it was designed to get around the donation laws or whether it was to help a ministerial chief of staff to supplement their public salary. But for the purpose of my comments today, I'll focus on the second possibility or question, mainly just because I think that aspect is of greater interest to my community. So, firstly, there's things that we can do as MPs to build trust with our constituents, and also things that we can do to rip it apart. What builds trust with our constituents, in my view, is working hard and achieving results. I think it's important to find common ground and to share experiences and use that common ground as the basis for our work. And it means acknowledging our privilege. I think that's an important connector, and I'm very conscious of my privilege. Recently, someone commented to me on Facebook about how much I earn and suggested that it was too much for anyone, let alone someone like me who did nothing, which were his words, not mine. But look, in terms of the very broad general point, and I wasn't defensive about it, I agreed with him. I acknowledge that it's true that all too often the people who do the toughest, most monotonous, dangerous, I've got the word shitty, which I probably can't say in Parliament, but those jobs are paid the least. And not only are my conditions more comfortable, but I'm also getting paid better than a mum who has to leave her kids on a Saturday for a 10-hour retail shift, or a person who has to get up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday to make coffees. But where I am now, and I think that this is important, where I am now is not what shapes or drives my politics. What drives my politics is where I'm from. And just to indulge the House a little bit on that, and I don't come from poverty. I'm not claiming that, but lower middle class. Until I was 13, we were a one-income, one-car family. We had enough money to build a house, which is privilege, but not enough money to finish it. So we moved in. I think I was about. We did 2 houses like that. I think I was 6 for the first house and then about 14 for the second house. It was barely at lock-up stage, so the curtains were sheets and the floor coverings in the lounge room were carpet offcuts on a bare concrete floor. I often tell people that Dad made our beds, but he literally made our beds with a hammer and nails. He went into one of our local furniture shops in Mildura and he was writing measurements with a pen on his jumper because there wasn't internet in those days to try and, do the measurements. So that's how he managed to work out how to make a bed. But with interest rates over 17%, we were lucky to own a house at all. But everything felt very precarious. Things got easier when Mum went back to work and she got a job on the bottling line at Lindeman's Winery. But we still struggled. In year 10, and I'm actually embarrassed to tell this story, but I'm very brave, I had 2 very fetching skivvies. So one was grey, the other one was green, and I'd alternate between these when I went out to the cinema or places like that. They weren't brand label. I did get the occasional sports girl shirt, a total of 2 from memory, and the piece de resistance, which was very high status, which was a blue Esprit T-shirt. I know. Thank you, Juliana. Pretty impressive. Which I was gifted for Christmas in Year 7, which I still wear to bed, and to 90s theme nights. Eventually, by putting one foot in front of the other, Mum and Dad edged their way ahead and they were able to put us through university and pay off their house. Hard work was integral to their success, but so was the support of good government policies that welded rungs on the ladder of social mobility. Their success was helped by high-quality state education. It was helped by universal healthcare. It was helped by unionised wages that gave teachers and blue-collar workers a shot at buying a house and sending their kids like me to university. It was helped by a progressive tax system that required privileged people like me now to contribute more so that battler families like us then could overcome barriers that could not otherwise be overcome by hard work alone. To the man on Facebook I referred to, I agreed that I get paid a lot, and I think politicians do. My wage is paid by taxpayers, many of whom work in much tougher fields with much poorer conditions than me. And that's why every single day I commit myself to using my privilege and influence not to help people like me get richer, but to support families like the one I came from to build better lives. And that's not just a part of my politics, it's the whole reason I'm here. And to me, that's integrity. It's what builds trust and connection. On the flip side, what undermines trust and connection and does our profession, I think is a noble profession, a profound disservice are things like exclusivity, elitism, condescension, pretending to care about poverty and disadvantaged children while kicking out every rung you can on the ladder of social opportunity that gives those kids some chance at a better life. I think it's pretending to care about public healthcare, public education, public transport, nurses, public housing, and a legislative and policy framework for fair wages and conditions when you're in opposition, and then trashing those things when you're in government. I think what undermines trust is accepting public money that is already generously allocated to us, saying it's not enough, and then bending the rules to get more. What undermines trust is failing to acknowledge how bloody lucky we are. Here we are in this magnificent building which is paid for by our constituents, many of whom I know in the Mallee are genuine battlers. We have nice offices with nice couches, we have cleaners, security, computers, and we have social status. Every time I come into this building, I'm conscious of my privilege. In my community, 25% of families live on less than $650 a week before tax. That has to pay for everything: rent, bills, school lunches, school shoes, childcare. Spent the last few weeks talking to autism families. Many of these families are battlers in the first place. Then add to that the multi-layered challenges of having a child with a disability, the difficulty in maintaining employment, if your child's school needs you to be on call every day for assistance with toileting. The battle with the NDIS in getting services, the battle in paying for assessments in order to get a diagnosis, in order to get the early intervention services their kids need, in the limited window they have to have a meaningful impact on their child's long-term adaptive development. These families can't afford private services. What they experience every day is financial hardship. What we experience every day is not. My community knows I work hard, but they also expect me to be grounded, to appreciate the privilege I have as their representative in state parliament and to keep that privilege in check. That means acknowledging that my wage as an MP is a very good wage, acknowledging that I have no reason to whinge. What worried me most about the Mitch Catlin scandal was a column that followed suggesting the root cause of that scandal wasn't greed or entitlement, but the miserly pay that MPs and senior advisors get. This idea that unless our constituents pay us twice or three times the amount that we're getting now, what's the incentive to work in the public sector? Well, maybe the incentive is values. Maybe the incentive is the opportunity to represent your community, to be part of a bigger cause than yourself and your own wallet. What this scandal showed me above all was that we need to check our privilege. We are not the victims of anything. We are extremely fortunate. In Mitch Catlin's case, if the honour of serving Her Majesty's opposition for a healthy middle-class wage is not enough for you, that's all we need to know about where your heart is. Helping Kim Kardashian flog her makeup at Flemington is the right job for you. Serving the public is not. Thank you.